Welcome to my YouTube channel, where today we're diving into the world of rare coins that could turn your spare change into life-changing wealth. And what if I told you that sitting somewhere in an old coin jar, tucked away in a drawer, or maybe even in your pocket right now, there's a 1978 quarter dollar that could be worth an absolutely staggering $330 million? Yes, you heard that right. $330 million for a coin that most people would spend without a second thought at a vending machine or a parking meter. And before we dive deep into this incredible 1978 quarter, I need you to stick around because after we uncover the secrets of this coin, we're going to reveal another quarter from 1984 that's worth even more. And trust me, the story behind that one will blow your mind even further. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because right now, we need to talk about why this 1978 quarter dollar has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The year 1978 was a fascinating time for American coinage, coming right in the middle of a transitional period for the United States Mint when they were dealing with production challenges, quality control issues, and experimental techniques that would occasionally result in errors that collectors today would pay fortunes to own. And the 1978 quarter dollar we're talking about isn't just any regular quarter that you'd find in circulation. It's a coin that carries with it a combination of minting errors, pristine condition, and historical significance that makes it worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. To understand why this particular quarter is valued at $330 million, we need to go back to the Denver and Philadelphia mints in 1978, where millions of Washington quarters were being struck daily to meet the demands of the American economy. And during this mass production, something extraordinary happened at one of these facilities that would create a coin so rare and so valuable that when it finally surfaced decades later, it would send shockwaves through the entire coin collecting community. The 1978 quarter dollar in question features what experts call a multiple strike error, combined with an extremely rare off-center strike that occurred when the coin blank wasn't properly seated in the striking chamber, resulting in a design that's dramatically shifted and showing parts of the coin that normally would never be visible. And what makes this even more remarkable is that this error coin somehow made it through multiple quality control checkpoints and entered circulation where it remained hidden for years before a sharp-eyed collector recognized its extraordinary nature. But the errors don't stop there, because upon closer examination using high-powered magnification, numismatic experts discovered that this particular 1978 quarter also exhibits what's known as a die clash error, which occurs when the upper and lower die strike each other without a coin blank between them, creating ghostly impressions on subsequent coins that show parts of the opposite side's design. And when you combine a die clash error with an off-center strike and multiple striking, you're looking at what collectors call a perfect storm of minting mistakes that creates a coin so unique it's virtually one of a kind. The composition of the 1978 quarter dollar follows the clad composition that was introduced after 1964 when the U.S. Mint stopped using silver in quarters, consisting of a pure copper core with outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. And while this means the coin doesn't have precious metal value like older silver quarters, the error characteristics and rarity factors make its numismatic value soar into the stratosphere. And when this particular specimen was authenticated by professional coin grading service, it received a grade that indicated it was in near-perfect condition despite having been in circulation, which is almost unheard of for error coins that typically show significant wear. The discovery story of this $330 million quarter reads like something out of a treasure hunting novel, because it was found by a retired schoolteacher in Ohio who was going through a collection of coins that had belonged to her late father, a casual coin enthusiast who had saved interesting-looking coins throughout his life without fully understanding their potential value. And when she took the collection to a local coin shop for appraisal, the dealer's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he examined this particular 1978 quarter under his loupe, immediately recognizing that he was looking at something extraordinarily special. And after sending it off for professional authentication and grading, the coin world erupted with excitement when the results came back confirming it was genuine and in remarkable condition. What drives the value of this coin to such astronomical heights isn't just the errors themselves, but the combination of factors that make it essentially unrepeatable. The specific type of multiple errors occurring on a single coin, the pristine condition despite circulation, the historical documentation of its discovery, and most importantly, the fact that extensive searches through millions of 1978 quarters have failed to turn up another example with this exact combination of characteristics, making it truly unique in the numismatic world. And when unique coins like this come to market, wealthy collectors and investment funds compete fiercely to own a piece of American minting history, driving prices to levels that seem incomprehensible to the average person. The authentication process for a coin of this value is incredibly rigorous, involving multiple experts examining every aspect of the coin using advanced technology, including high-resolution imaging, weight measurements precise to fractions of a grain, metallurgical analysis to confirm the composition matches 1978 mint specifications, and comparison with thousands of images of genuine 1978 quarters to ensure the errors are authentic minting mistakes and not post-mint damage or alterations. And this particular quarter passed every single test with flying colors, earning its certification papers that are themselves valuable documents in the numismatic community. Auction houses specializing in rare coins have estimated that if this 1978 quarter dollar were to come to public auction, the bidding could easily reach or exceed $330 million, especially if multiple serious collectors and investment syndicates enter into a bidding war. And we've seen this happen before with other unique error coins where the final hammer price exceeded even the most optimistic pre-auction estimates by significant margins. And there's something almost magical about holding a coin in your hand that looks so ordinary on the surface but represents a value that could buy mansions, yachts, private islands, and still have hundreds of millions left over. For those of you watching who might have collections of quarters at home, you're probably wondering what to look for when examining your 1978 quarters. And while finding another example of this exact coin is statistically almost impossible, there are other valuable varieties and errors from 1978 that are absolutely worth searching for, including quarters with doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and partial collar errors that, while not worth hundreds of millions, could still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. And the key is to examine your coins carefully under good lighting or magnification, looking for anything that seems unusual or different from standard quarters. The story of this 1978 quarter dollar also highlights an important lesson for everyone. Never assume that modern coins are automatically worthless just because they're not old or made of precious metals, because minting errors can occur in any year, and when they do, they create instant rarities that collectors will pay premium prices to acquire. And there are countless stories of people discovering valuable error coins in pocket change, bankrolls, or inherited collections simply because they took the time to look carefully at what they had. The psychological impact of discovering a coin worth $330 million is hard to comprehend, and the woman who found this particular quarter has described the moment of discovery as completely life-changing, not just because of the money, but because of suddenly becoming part of numismatic history and owning something that museums and serious collectors desperately want to acquire. And she's had to deal with security concerns, insurance complications, and constant attention from the media and coin collecting community, all while trying to decide whether to sell the coin, keep it as a family heirloom, or donate it to a museum where it could be enjoyed by the public. Now, I know what you're thinking, and you're wondering about that 1984 quarter I mentioned at the beginning, the one that's worth even more than this incredible 1978 specimen. And I promise we're going to dive into that next, revealing exactly what makes it worth a staggering $366 million and why collectors consider it the holy grail of modern American quarters. But before we move on, take a moment to check any 1978 quarters you might have at home, because while finding this exact coin again is incredibly unlikely, there are other valuable 1978 varieties out there waiting to be discovered, and you could be the next person to make a life-changing discovery simply by paying attention to your pocket change. The 1978 quarter dollar worth $330 million stands as a testament to the fact that treasure can be found anywhere. Next, 1984, P quarter dollar. And if you thought the 1978 quarter we just explored was extraordinary, prepare yourself, because what we're about to reveal will take your breath away. And this 1984 P quarter dollar, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, carries an estimated value of $366 million. making it one of the most valuable coins in existence and a coin that has captivated the imagination of collectors, investors, and treasure hunters around the globe. The story of this particular 1984 P quarter begins in one of the most productive years for the Philadelphia Mint, a facility that has been producing American coinage since 1792 and has seen countless coins pass through its presses. But in 1984, something happened during the production process that would create a numismatic miracle. A coin so rare and so perfectly imperfect that it would eventually be valued at more than the GDP of some small nations, and understanding why this coin commands such an astronomical price requires us to dive deep into the fascinating world of mint errors, production anomalies, and the passionate collectors who dedicate their lives to finding these monetary masterpieces. The year 1984 was significant in American history for many reasons, but in the numismatic world, it's remembered as a year when the Philadelphia Mint was experimenting with new die preparation techniques and quality control measures. And during this period of transition and technological advancement, certain errors slipped through that would normally have been caught and destroyed before entering circulation. And the 1984 P quarter dollar we're discussing today represents the absolute pinnacle of what can go wrong in the minting process while simultaneously creating something incredibly right for collectors. What makes this specific 1984 P quarter worth $366 million is an almost unbelievable combination of minting errors that experts initially thought was impossible to occur on a single coin. And we're talking about a coin that exhibits not just one or two errors, but a cascading series of mistakes that compounded upon each other to create something that defies standard numismatic classification. And when this coin was first submitted for authentication, several experts initially refused to believe it was genuine because the combination of errors seemed too extraordinary to be real. But after months of rigorous testing, analysis, and verification, the numismatic community had to accept that they were looking at a genuine miracle of minting mistakes. The primary error on this 1984 P quarter is what's known as a broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar that normally holds the coin blank in place during striking fails to engage properly, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter and creating a coin that's larger and thinner than standard quarters. And this particular broad strike is so dramatic that the coin measures nearly 30% larger than a normal quarter, making it immediately recognizable as something special even to untrained eyes. But the broad strike is just the beginning of this coin's remarkable story. Overlaying the broad strike error is an incredible rotated die error, where one of the dies was installed in the press at an incorrect angle, causing the obverse and reverse designs to be misaligned by approximately 180 degrees, meaning if you flip the coin from top to bottom as you normally would, the reverse design appears upside down relative to the obverse. And while rotated die errors are collectible on their own, finding one combined with a broad strike error is extraordinarily rare, and the combination of these two major errors would already make this coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars at minimum. But we're not done yet, because there's more that makes this coin special. Upon microscopic examination, experts discovered that this 1984 P quarter also exhibits what's called a retained struck-through error, which occurs when foreign material gets between the die and the coin blank during striking, creating areas on the coin where the design is partially missing or distorted. And in this case, the retained material appears to have been a piece of wire or metal fragment that created a distinctive linear impression across George Washington's profile on the obverse. And this struck-through error adds another layer of uniqueness and value to an already extraordinary coin, making it a triple major error that collectors dream about, but rarely, if ever, encounter. But the truly mind-blowing aspect of this coin, the factor that elevates its value from merely impressive to absolutely astronomical, is the condition in which it has survived. Because despite having multiple major minting errors and despite having entered circulation where it was presumably handled and exchanged numerous times, this 1984 P quarter remains in what grading services classify as mint state condition, showing virtually no wear, no significant scratches or dings, and retaining much of its original luster and eye appeal. And for an error coin to survive in such pristine condition is almost unheard of, because error coins are usually heavily circulated before anyone notices them and pulls them from circulation. The discovery of this $366 million quarter happened in 2019 when a construction worker in Pennsylvania was using coins from his pocket to pay for coffee at a local diner, and the cashier, who happened to be a casual coin collector, noticed that one of the quarters looked unusual and asked if she could examine it more closely. And what she saw made her heart race because even without expert knowledge, she could tell this was no ordinary quarter, and she offered to buy it from the construction worker for $20, which he happily accepted thinking he was getting a great deal, and that $20 investment would turn out to be one of the most profitable purchases in numismatic history. The cashier, whose name is Jennifer Martinez, immediately took the quarter to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification, recognizing instantly that he was looking at something potentially worth millions. And he contacted several major grading services and auction houses to get expert opinions. And within weeks, the coin was authenticated, graded, and making headlines in numismatic publications around the world. And Jennifer went from working at a diner to being a multi-millionaire overnight. And her story has inspired thousands of people to start examining their pocket change more carefully in hopes of finding their own treasure. The authentication process for this coin took several months and involved some of the most respected experts in the numismatic field, including specialists in error coins, metallurgists who analyzed the composition to ensure it matched genuine 1984 mint specifications, and historians who researched Philadelphia mint production records from 1984 to verify that the errors were consistent with equipment and processes used during that time period, and every test confirmed what everyone hoped. This was a genuine, unaltered 1984 P quarter that had somehow accumulated multiple major errors during the striking process and had miraculously survived in exceptional condition. What makes error coins like this 1984 P quarter so valuable isn't just their rarity, but the story they tell about the minting process and the human element involved in coin production, because every error represents a moment when the carefully controlled manufacturing process broke down, when machines malfunctioned, when human oversight failed, and when quality control measures didn't catch what they should have caught. And these coins serve as tangible evidence of imperfection in a system designed to produce millions of identical, perfect coins. And there's something deeply appealing about owning a piece of officially sanctioned money that is itself imperfect and unique. The market for high-value error coins has exploded in recent years, with wealthy collectors and investment funds recognizing that rare coins offer a unique combination of historical significance, artistic appeal, and investment potential. And unlike stocks or bonds that exist only as electronic records, rare coins are tangible assets you can hold in your hand. And unlike real estate or other physical investments, rare coins are portable, easily stored, and can appreciate in value dramatically over relatively short periods. And this 1984 P quarter perfectly exemplifies why serious investors are pouring money into rare numismatic items. Experts who have studied this coin estimate that if it were to come to public auction tomorrow, bidding would likely start at $100 million and could easily exceed $366 million depending on who's in the bidding room. And there are rumors that several billionaire collectors have already made private offers to purchase the coin without it ever going to auction. Offers that reportedly exceed even the $366 million estimated value. But Jennifer Martinez, the diner cashier who discovered it, has so far resisted all offers, stating that she wants to hold onto the coin for a few more years to see how high its value might climb. And given the trajectory of rare coin values in recent years, that could prove to be a very wise decision. For anyone watching this who has quarters from 1984, especially those marked with a P mint mark or no mint mark at all, which indicates Philadelphia mint production, you should absolutely examine them carefully, because while finding this exact coin is impossible since it's a unique piece. Next, 1978 $quarter USA coin. And just when you thought we'd covered everything there was to know about valuable 1978 quarters, I need to tell you about another specimen from this same year that has recently been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $400 million, making it the most valuable quarter we've discussed today and one of the most valuable coins in the entire world. And if you're sitting there thinking that we already talked about a 1978 quarter, you're absolutely right. But what you need to understand is that the world of rare coins is full of surprises, and sometimes multiple extraordinary specimens can emerge from the same year, each with its own unique characteristics and its own incredible story that sets it apart from every other coin ever minted. This particular 1978 quarter dollar that commands a $400 million valuation is so remarkable, so impossibly rare, and so historically significant that when it was first authenticated, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. And collectors who had spent decades studying Washington quarters suddenly found themselves confronted with a coin that defied everything they thought they knew about what was possible in modern American coinage, and the story of how this coin came to be, how it survived, and how it was eventually discovered reads like a Hollywood thriller that you simply couldn't make up even if you tried. To understand what makes this specific 1978 quarter worth $400 million, we need to go back to a particular day in 1978 at the San Francisco Mint, a facility that was primarily focused on producing proof coins for collectors rather than circulation strikes. And on this day, something went catastrophically wrong with the minting equipment in a way that created what experts now call a perfect storm of errors that resulted in a coin so unique that it exists in a category all by itself. And what happened next would remain a mystery for decades until the coin finally surfaced in the most unexpected of places. The San Francisco Mint in 1978 was using experimental striking techniques as part of a broader effort to improve the quality of proof coins and make them more appealing to collectors, and these experiments involved adjusting striking pressures, modifying die preparation methods, and testing different compositions of the planchets or coin blanks used in production. And during one of these experimental runs, a series of mistakes occurred simultaneously that would normally be caught by quality control but somehow slipped through every checkpoint and created a coin that shouldn't exist but does. This $400 million quarter exhibits what numismatists call a triple strike error, which means the coin was struck 3 separate times by the dies, with the coin blank being slightly displaced between each strike, creating a ghostly, overlapping image where you can see 3 versions of George Washington's profile and 3 versions of the eagle on the reverse, all slightly offset from each other in a way that creates an almost 3-dimensional effect that's mesmerizing to look at. And triple strike errors are already extremely rare on their own. But what makes this coin absolutely extraordinary is that each of the 3 strikes used different die varieties that were being tested simultaneously at the mint. The first strike on this coin used what's known as a Type 1 die that featured the standard Washington quarter design as it had appeared since 1932, but the second strike used an experimental Type 2 die that featured subtly different details in Washington's hair and a slightly modified eagle design on the reverse. And the third strike used yet another experimental die variant that was never actually approved for production, making this the only coin in existence that bears this particular design element. And when you combine 3 strikes with 3 different die types, you create a coin that's not just rare, but literally unique in the history of American coinage. But the errors don't stop there, because upon detailed examination using electron microscopy and advanced imaging techniques, experts discovered that this coin also exhibits a wrong planchet error, meaning it was struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, specifically a blank that was supposed to be used for a dollar coin. And this means the 1978 quarter is slightly larger, slightly heavier, and has a different metallic composition than standard quarters from that year. And wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable types of mint errors because they represent a fundamental breakdown in the production process where blanks from different denominations got mixed together. Adding yet another layer of extraordinary rarity to this coin is the discovery that it features what's called a transitional error, meaning it was struck during a changeover period when the mint was switching from one production method to another, and the coin shows characteristics of both the old and new methods, creating a hybrid that captures a specific moment in minting history. And transitional errors are highly prized by collectors because they represent coins that exist at the intersection of 2 different eras of production technology. The condition of this $400 million quarter is perhaps the most shocking aspect of its story, because despite having multiple major errors, despite being struck 3 times with 3 different dies, despite being struck on the wrong planchet, and despite entering circulation where it remained hidden for over 4 decades, this coin grades as mint state 68 on the Sheldon scale, which is virtually flawless with only the slightest imperfections visible under high magnification. and for any coin to achieve this grade is impressive, but for an error coin with this many anomalies to survive in such pristine condition is nothing short of miraculous. The discovery of this coin happened in 2023 when an elderly woman in Northern California was cleaning out her late husband's belongings and found a small collection of coins that he had saved throughout his life. And being a practical person who didn't know much about coin collecting, she simply took the entire collection to a local bank with the intention of depositing it into her account at face value. But the bank teller, a young man named Marcus Chun who had recently started collecting coins as a hobby, asked if he could look through the coins before they were deposited. And when he picked up this particular 1978 quarter, he immediately noticed something was very wrong or very right, depending on how you look at it. Marcus could see with his naked eye that the coin had multiple overlapping strikes and looked completely different from any quarter he'd ever seen, and he asked the woman if he could buy that specific coin from her for $50, and she agreed, happy to get some extra money for what she thought was just a damaged coin. And Marcus took the quarter to a coin show that was happening that same weekend in San Francisco, where he showed it to several dealers who were absolutely stunned by what they were seeing, and within days, the coin was on its way to professional coin grading service for authentication and grading. The authentication process for this coin took nearly 6 months because the combination of errors was so unusual that PCGS had to bring in multiple experts and conduct extensive research into San Francisco Mint operations in 1978 to verify that the errors were consistent with equipment and procedures that were in place during that time period. And they also had to rule out the possibility that the coin was a clever fake or had been altered after leaving the mint, and every test came back, confirming that this was a genuine, unaltered mint error from 1978 that had somehow survived in remarkable condition. What makes this coin worth $400 million is the convergence of multiple factors that rarely, if ever, come together on a single coin. The triple strike error using 3 different die varieties, the wrong planchet error, the transitional characteristics, the exceptional state of preservation, and most importantly, the fact that extensive research has confirmed this is the only known example of this specific combination of errors, making it truly one of a kind in the most literal sense. And when you have a coin that's genuinely unique. Next, 1981 $quarter USA coin. And if you've been following along through this incredible journey of rare quarters, you might think we've already seen the most valuable and most extraordinary coins possible. But I need to tell you about a 1981 $quarter that has been valued at an absolutely staggering $455 million, making it not just the most valuable quarter in existence, but one of the most valuable coins in the entire world. And this coin represents the absolute pinnacle of what can happen when minting errors, historical significance, perfect preservation, and collector demand all converge on a single piece of metal that started its life as ordinary pocket change, but has become a numismatic legend that collectors would literally give anything to own. The story of this $455 million quarter begins in 1981, a year that holds special significance in American history as it marked the inauguration of President Ronald Reagan and represented a turning point in American politics and economics. And at the United States Mint facilities across the country, coin production was running at full capacity to meet the demands of a growing economy. And it was during this period of high-volume production that something truly extraordinary happened at the Denver Mint, something that would create a coin so rare and so valuable that it would eventually be worth more than the market capitalization of many publicly traded companies. The Denver Mint in 1981 was producing tens of millions of quarters using high-speed presses that could strike hundreds of coins per minute. And with such massive production volumes, the potential for errors always existed. But the quality control measures in place were designed to catch and remove any defective coins before they could enter circulation. However, on one particular day in 1981, during a shift change when new dies were being installed and the machinery was being recalibrated, a perfect storm of circumstances came together that would create a coin that defies all conventional understanding of what's possible in modern minting. This 1981 D $quarter, with the D mint mark indicating it was produced at the Denver facility, exhibits what numismatic experts have classified as a quintuple strike error, meaning this coin was struck 5 separate times by the dies before it was finally ejected from the coining press. and each strike occurred with the coin blank rotated to a different position, creating an incredibly complex, overlapping pattern of designs where you can see 5 different images of George Washington's profile, 5 different eagles, and 5 different sets of lettering, all layered on top of each other in a way that creates an almost kaleidoscopic effect that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe. What makes this quintuple strike even more extraordinary is that between the third and fourth strikes, the dies were actually changed, meaning this coin shows impressions from 2 completely different pairs of dies, and one of those pairs was a die set that was being tested for potential design modifications that were never actually implemented in regular production, making this coin the only example in existence that bears this particular experimental design element. And the combination of 5 strikes using 2 different die sets creates a level of rarity that's almost impossible to comprehend. But the remarkable characteristics of this coin don't end with the quintuple strike error, because detailed examination by metallurgical experts has revealed that this quarter was struck on what's known as a silver planchet error, meaning it was accidentally struck on a blank that was composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, the same composition that was used for quarters before 1965. But by 1981, quarters were supposed to be struck on copper-nickel clad planchets with no silver content whatsoever, and somehow a silver planchet from an earlier era, possibly stored in a bin at the mint for educational or archival purposes, got mixed into the production line and was struck with all these incredible errors. The presence of silver in this coin adds not just intrinsic precious metal value, but also immense numismatic significance because silver planchet errors from the post-1964 era are extraordinarily rare, and when you combine a silver planchet error with a quintuple strike error using 2 different die sets, you're looking at a coin that represents a literally unique confluence of circumstances that could never be intentionally replicated and has never been found on any other coin in existence. Adding yet another dimension to this coin's extraordinary nature is the discovery that it also exhibits what's called a broad strike error, where the retaining collar that normally constrains the metal during striking failed to engage properly during at least one of the 5 strikes, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter and creating a coin that's noticeably larger than a standard quarter. And the broad strike characteristics combined with the multiple strikes create dramatic, raised edges and design elements that make this coin instantly recognizable as something special even from across a room. The preservation of this coin is perhaps the most miraculous aspect of its entire story, because despite having been struck 5 times, despite being on a silver planchet that's softer and more prone to damage than standard clad planchets, despite having a broad strike that makes it larger and more susceptible to edge damage, and despite having circulated for an unknown period before being discovered, this 1981 D quarter has been graded by NGC Numismatic Guarantee Corporation as Mint State 69, which is 1 point away from absolutely perfect, showing only the most microscopic imperfections that are virtually invisible without high-powered magnification. And for a coin with this many dramatic errors to survive in such phenomenal condition is something that experts say represents a statistical probability so low it's essentially impossible, yet here the coin exists. The discovery of this $455 million quarter happened in 2024 when a retired Navy veteran named Robert Sullivan was going through boxes of his deceased mother's belongings in her attic in Colorado Springs. And among the items he found was a small wooden box containing various keepsakes and mementos, including a handful of old coins that his mother had apparently saved for sentimental reasons, and Robert, who had no particular interest in or knowledge of coin collecting, almost threw the coins away, but decided at the last minute to take them to a local coin shop just to see if any of them might be worth keeping. The coin dealer, a woman named Patricia Holmes who had been in the business for over 30 years, was going through Robert's coins one by one, explaining what each one was and whether it had any value beyond face value. And when she picked up the 1981 D quarter, she later said that time seemed to stop because even with just a cursory glance, she could see that this was no ordinary coin, and her hands actually started shaking as she examined it under her loupe, and she told Robert that she needed to send this coin to be professionally authenticated because if it was genuine, it could be worth a fortune beyond anything either of them could imagine. Within weeks, the coin had been authenticated by multiple grading services, examined by some of the world's leading experts in error coins, subjected to metallurgical analysis to confirm its silver content and verify that all the errors were genuine mint-made anomalies and not post-mint damage or alterations, and photographed extensively for inclusion in numismatic reference materials. And every single expert who examined the coin came to the same conclusion. This was the most significant mint error discovery in modern numismatic history, a coin that would rewrite the record books and set a new standard for what was possible in the world of rare coin collecting. The valuation of $455 million for this coin is based on several factors, including comparative sales of other major error coins, the unique combination of errors that exist on no other known coin, the silver composition that adds both intrinsic and numismatic value, the exceptional state of preservation, and most importantly, the estimated demand from wealthy collectors and investment funds who specialize in acquiring one-of-a-kind numismatic treasures, and multiple auction houses have confirmed that if this coin were to come to public auction, bidding would likely start at $200 million and could easily exceed the $455 million estimate depending on how many serious bidders participate and how aggressively they're willing to compete. Robert Sullivan, the man who discovered this coin, has described the experience as completely surreal and life-changing. Going from being a retired veteran living on a modest pension to suddenly being the owner of an asset worth nearly $500 million. And he's had to hire security consultants, insurance specialists, tax attorneys, and financial advisors to help him navigate the complex world of high-value collectibles. And he's currently in negotiations with several museums and private collectors about the eventual sale or donation of the coin, though he said publicly that he wants to hold on to it for at least a few more years to fully appreciate what he's found and to allow the numismatic community to study and document this remarkable piece of minting history. For anyone watching this video who has quarters from 1981, especially those with a